What up, guys? Kevin here. Exclusives. Exclusives. Now, I hate exclusives. I really do. I know it's part of the business, but I would love to just play any game where I want to play it. I would actually love to play it on multiple systems. How awesome would be like, I want to take this game on the go. Let me load up a save on the Switch. Stuff like that. Some games you can't. But exclusives seem to be a big deal for PlayStation. And Xbox, I'm not saying Xbox doesn't have exclusives, but they don't get these exclusives. This is from Jez Gordon. Jez Corden, little bitch Jez Corden. Not to be mean, but he's the only person that blocked me that I did not interact with. Ever had that? Like where you never interacted with somebody and you find out you're blocked? How does that work? My guess is I interacted with somebody else. He was looking through their feed, saw my beautiful tweet, and went, oh, this guy's following me? Block. That's weird. That's super weird. So, yeah, I wish nothing but the best for him. But he says he has heard that Sony landed a deal with Konami for Metal Gear, Silent Hill, and potentially Castlevania exclusivity. It seems to be the same pattern, right? That's Square Enix. Square Enix is now working exclusively with Japanese, we call it console makers, Sony and Nintendo. Now it looks like Konami is going to be exclusively working with PlayStation. Xbox are still getting the best games, though, which is a Grandia collection. Dude, oh my God. Grandia, I'm going to be playing Grandia 2, I think, this year. It's coming out this year, right? One of the best games ever. Grandia 2. I need to play Grandia 1. Not Grandia. What am I saying? Grandia. Suikoden. Grandia is actually really awesome, too. I hope they port that to the main consoles. Suikoden. My bad, I just woke up. Yeah. This is a big issue. Now I know you either fall in the camp of, well, Xbox, why don't you go do it? Or you can fall into, I'm in the camp of, again, I want exclusives to not be a thing. I want them everywhere. I'm more in favor of, hey, this needs to be like looked into. This is anti-competitive? I say that because it doesn't cost Sony as much money to lock up big-ass games like this than it would for Xbox. That's why Xbox has to just buy them. They're like, what? We would have to spend how much to get your game exclusive? At that price point, let's just buy your ass. And it's like, oh, the 360 did it. Well, the 360 was able to do it because they had the lead. Sony fucked up really bad. And it probably didn't cost Xbox that much money. Now, Xbox, they're trying to do it, but they only do it with titles that they can do it with. You got a game like Valheim, which I loaded that up on the Series X. I was like, oh, this is a great get. I'm like, oh, wow, I didn't realize this game looks like shit. I think Arc 2 is going to be huge. But those are like big games that are going to be played by more and more people for longer times. I think an Arc 2 is strategically better than getting a one-and-done game like Silent Hill or Metal Gear Castlevania. However, the awards, the roses, are going to go to Sony for getting these games. So I think it's time, Xbox, if they're just trying to be the good guy, like, we don't want to do that. That's bad for the business. I mean, this is long overdue. Xbox, you got to do something. You know, people are saying Phil Spencer needs to go. Well, if he needs to go, and let's just say I were in charge, I'm getting 2 or 3 of big exclusives a year, like 2-3 year timed exclusives, maybe infinite exclusives if I can. How would I do that? I think $1 billion would do it. I think $1 billion. I think that should be able to get an exclusive, right? It doesn't seem like a lot of money these days. if if you're gonna go and spend Xbox, if you're gonna go spend $70 billion for Activision Blizzard, what's 2 billion a year to lock up a few exclusives like a Metal Gear, Silent Hill, or whatever, like the big ones, and just make sure you nurture that game so when it comes out on your console and your console only, maybe PC as well, that it's in just perfect condition. What is that over a generation? You're spending like $14 billion a generation to get those big games along with your games. I think maybe you still won't win, outsell PlayStation and Nintendo, but you got to bring people to your ecosystem. Great games will do that. Great games will have people check out your ecosystem, maybe buy a console if Grand Theft Auto 6 is exclusive to Xbox, which people are saying that that's now a possibility for Sony, which would be insane. Sony's locking up Japanese studios. Now they're locking up American studio exclusives. Yeah. That's why when I see the senators and congressmen sending letters to Sony, even how phony and cringe it is, still part of me is like, this needs to be seriously looked into, because how much does it cost to keep a game off? What is that price point? Probably $1 billion if Xbox were to do it to Sony. Probably like $5 million for Sony to do it to Xbox. So, yeah. Just keeping the little guy down. That's all Sony's able to do and can do it. And I do think there's some trade agreements being broken there, or something illegal's going on. I really do. I really do. I don't think they just pull that out of thin air, these like senators and congressmen. But I'm not going to act like I know exactly what's going on there. But there's something there. And I hope it does. Really hope it does. It gets looked into. Because if you're a PlayStation fanboy and you're one of the loud ones, and you're making fun of Xbox because they have no games, like, your argument is just out the window when Sony goes out and does this. And your excuse is, well, why don't you do it too? Like, I mean, Xbox tried to do it with Rise of the Tomb Raider. We saw what happened. They were worse than Hitler. Xbox was worse than Hitler when they locked up Rise of the Tomb Raider as an exclusive. Square Enix had to like leak it out that it's coming to PlayStation. Like, oh no, don't you worry. I mean, we can't. Xbox does enough to themselves to make it harder, but we can't act like the industry is very fair to Xbox. It's not. And hey, that's on Xbox. Phil Spencer said it. That's on him. Phil Spencer even said, like, the other guys, Sony and Nintendo, make it difficult for the Xbox platform. And at a certain point, we're well past it. You got to start making it hard for them. Now, I do believe Phil Spencer shouldn't go. Phil Spencer went out and bought Bethesda, trying to buy Activision Blizzard. People act like it may not be enough, but that's a baller move. That's a, hey, we want to crush them too move. Going and buying two big publishers. But, maybe we do need someone a little bit more want to get back at Sony. I saw someone put out a quote that was like one of the early Xbox heads or whatever, said he wanted whoever the head of Sony's resignation. That's his goal. And I think it's time for that. I think it is time for that. I think it's time to put Sony out of business. I don't want them to go out of business, but that's the mentality that if you're Xbox, you need to have because you're competing with them in the console space. If I'm Satya Nadella, if I'm looking for somebody new, that's who I want. I want someone that makes it all about games, games, and hurting Sony. I would say, Satya Nadella would ask me, like, what would you consider a success? I would say when there's a news report that Sony is laying off 10,000 PlayStation employees. That's the attitude that Xbox needs. I'm with them there. I think Phil Spencer has an idea of gaming. Everybody plays whatever system, yada, yada, yada. It's all great, but it's starting to be like Bernie Sanders, idealistic worldview. And it ain't the real world. It just isn't. Because this stuff is going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. And it's just seeing that when PlayStation does it, it's like, oh, they're taking care of their fan base. And it goes against Xbox for not having the games. And I mean, what can they do? What can they do? I mean, they may even be able to throw $1 billion at the problem, and they'll be like, "Ooh, still only put it on Xbox." That's the thing, though. These developers, they want to put the games on PlayStation. They do. I think people leave Xbox because they can't put the games on PlayStation. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. So, again, that's on Xbox to figure out. And I do think it's a really scummy move. It's a real scummy move. Like, I just saw like PlayStation's ahead 15 million. And I mean, this is why. This is why. I mean, do something. Xbox, do something. Poking you with the stick. Do something. All right, I got to go though. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you later. Later.